All right, today we're going to jump in a time machine and travel way, way back into the past. Why? Because we're about to uncover the secrets of one of the world's most brilliant and most mysterious ancient civilizations. Get ready because we're exploring the Indus Valley. Just think about that for a second. A massive, super advanced city that was around thousands of years ago, but had streets and buildings that looks, well, kind of like ours. And then, poof, one day, it all went silent. The people just disappeared, and the city was lost for centuries. Sounds like something out of a blockbuster movie, right? Well, guess what? It's a true story. And this is the real-life mystery we're going to crack today. So welcome, fellow explorers, to the Indus Valley Civilization, which you might also hear called the Harappan Civilization. Let's dive in and see what made these people so special. Okay, here's our game plan for this adventure. First up, we'll see how this lost world was even found in the first place. Then, we'll take a tour of one of their amazing super cities. After that, we'll get to know the people who live there, check out their incredible skills, and finally, we'll try to solve the biggest puzzle of all. Where did they all go? So, our story kicks off back in the 1920s. Now, back then, historians and archaeologists thought they had a pretty solid map of ancient history. But, oh boy, were they about to get a massive surprise. So in 1921, an archaeologist stumbled upon the ruins of an ancient city called Harappa. Okay, cool discovery. But then, just a year later, another team found a second, even bigger city called Mohenjo-daro. And just like that, boom, history was turned completely upside down. It meant that a huge, super advanced civilization had existed thousands of years earlier than anyone ever imagined. This discovery didn't just add a new chapter to the history books, it forced them to rewrite the whole beginning. And listen to this, we are not talking about just a few hundred years ago. This civilization was thriving a mind-boggling 4,500 years ago. To put that in perspective, that's older than the famous Roman Colosseum, older than even some of the great pyramids in Egypt. Wow. Now, all of this was happening during a period that we call the Bronze Age. And, it's got that name for a pretty simple reason. It's when people figured out how to mix two metals, copper and tin, to create this really strong and useful new metal called, you guessed it, bronze. And the people of the Indus Valley, they weren't just using it. They were absolute masters of it. All right, now that we know when we are, let's see where they lived. It's time to go on a tour of one of their incredible super cities. So grab your explorer hats, everyone. We're about to walk the ancient streets of Mohenjo-daro. Okay, I want you to picture this. You're walking down a wide, straight main street. Now look to your left and to your right. Smaller streets branch off at perfect 90-degree angles, creating this perfect, neat grid. It's so organized. The houses are made of strong, baked bricks. Some are even 2 stories tall. And get this, underneath your feet, there's a hidden network of covered drains, a whole sanitation system, keeping the entire city clean. I mean, how incredible is that? That's some genius-level city planning right there. You know what's really wild? How modern this all sounds. A city built on a grid plan, using uniform bricks, with a sophisticated drainage system? That sounds a lot like many modern cities today, maybe like New York. It's just incredible. These people were literally thousands of years ahead of their time. And they weren't just building houses. Check out these amazing public buildings. In the middle of the city, there's this huge structure called the Great Bath. It's basically a giant swimming pool, and it was built so well that it's still watertight today, thousands of years later. They also had these enormous buildings called granaries, which were for storing extra food for the whole city. This just shows you how organized and incredibly skilled they were as engineers and builders. So, we've explored these amazing cities, but what about the people themselves? Who were they? What was it actually like to live in the Indus Valley all that time ago? Well, let's put on our detective hats and look at the clues they left behind to piece together their daily lives. From what we can tell, their society was super organized. It looks like you had rulers at the top who were in charge of governing the cities. Then you had a bustling group of merchants and traders handling all the business. You also had talented artisans making things and hardworking farmers growing food for everyone. And, of course, laborers to do all the heavy lifting. It seems like everyone had an important role to play. So what was for dinner back then? Well, they actually had a really healthy and varied diet. Their main foods were grains like wheat and barley, but they also ate plenty of fruits and vegetables. And they got protein from milk, meat, fish, and eggs. Sounds pretty delicious, right? These people also had a real sense of style. We know they wore clothes made from cotton and wool, and that both men and women loved wearing jewelry, things like necklaces, rings, and bangles. And for fun, it looks like they enjoyed indoor games like dice. Archaeologists have even found the toys that kids played with back then, little clay carts, dolls, and rattles. It's amazing to think of kids playing with those toys 4,500 years ago. Okay, so beyond just their day-to-day lives, the people of the Indus Valley were seriously talented. Let's take a closer look at their amazing skills, both as creators and as world-class traders. No joke, these were some seriously skilled people. They were expert farmers. In fact, get this, they were the very first people in the entire world to figure out how to grow cotton. Their potters made beautiful, decorated pottery. Their metalworkers crafted everything from simple tools to absolutely stunning bronze statues. They were true masters of their craft. And they didn't just keep all these amazing things to themselves. Oh no. Archaeologists have found their special seals. You can think of them like ancient company logos, as far away as Mesopotamia, which is modern-day Iraq. This is stone-cold proof that they were part of a huge international trade network, traveling over land and sailing on ships to do business across the ancient world. So let's recap. They had these incredible cities, a complex society, amazing skills, and a trade network that stretched for miles. They were, without a doubt, on top of the ancient world. So what on earth happened? This brings us to our final and by far the most puzzling question. For about 1,000 years, this civilization was booming. It was a powerhouse. And then, around the year 1500 BCE, everything just stopped. The great cities were deserted, left empty to crumble into dust. And the question that has stumped historians and archaeologists for a century is simply why? Well, there are a lot of theories. Maybe it was a massive earthquake or a series of terrible floods. Some people think they might have been invaded. Another really strong theory is that the mighty Indus River, which was the lifeblood of their whole civilization, actually changed its course, which would have turned all their fertile farmland into a desert. But the truth is, while we have lots of fascinating clues, we don't have one final answer. The disappearance of the Indus Valley people remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. So, let's do a super quick recap of everything we've learned. The Indus Valley civilization was one of the world's very first and most advanced urban societies. They were absolute geniuses at town planning, famous for those grid layouts and amazing drainage systems. They were skilled farmers, remember the cotton, as well as artists and long-distance traders. And after 1,000 years of incredible success, they just vanished, leaving behind this amazing puzzle for us to try and solve. You know, this quote from our source material really says it all. This wasn't some simple, primitive culture. This was a complex, highly developed society that was a true powerhouse in the ancient world. You know, finding the Indus Valley civilization completely changed how we see our own past. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other amazing stories, what other entire lost civilizations might still be buried right under our feet, just waiting for the next curious explorer to find them?